Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to talk about a concept known as ad rank. Basically, I want to discuss the different levers that are available to pull and push when it comes to optimizing your Google Ads activity. A lot of people immediately look at it and just think it's all about bids and budget and I want to rank first to be at the top of Google and all that stuff, which isn't necessarily the best way to go. Bids and budget is one side, but there's a whole other side of things to look at, which I don't think people are always aware of. And so I really want to delve into when it's good to use one or the other and understanding actually what's underpinning this Google algorithm to the best of our awareness and what's out there for us to understand, and then how can you leverage that. So I'm going to jump in. I've got an actual visual example that's going to hopefully clarify this further, and we'll jump right into it.
All right, so let's look at all the different factors that are a part of how Google Ads really works. And this is ultimately referred to as ad rank. Ad rank is essentially, I think of it as how the algorithm decides to position you in the search engine results page. Not necessarily just based on where you rank from position 1 to 4, although that is a big part of it, but also how much you might pay per click in any instance of the auction. And to get a better understanding of this, I want us to look at what's underneath the dotted line first in this diagram. So this equation here. Historically, the equation used to be quality score multiplied by bid equals ad rank. And you could actually do a bit of math behind it to get a physical, tangible number. And that would let you understand, okay, well, if I do something to my quality score and or to my bid, I can get a loose feel as to what that's going to do to my position. Now, what's happened in the last few years is that Google has also put extra heavy emphasis on ad extensions, which are things like site links, location extensions, phone numbers, basically anything else that can be added on to your main ad copy and bulk out your real estate on the search engine results page. Now, as is normal with Google, you don't really know exactly how the algorithm works, maybe because they don't themselves, I don't know. But we know ad extensions have an impact. We just don't know exactly what it's doing, hence this sort of cloud element here to denote that it's part of the equation. We just don't know exactly how it factors in. We can't get a clear formula like we used to have. But it's still useful to visualize it this way because it shows us the main levers that we can push and pull. Now, taking that in mind, let's go to the top here of the diagram and we can then see how that filters down, and we'll discuss, well, what can you actually do to be more efficient and optimize your ad rank with your campaigns. So ad rank falls into these three pillars: bid, quality score, and ad extensions. Now, most people inherently look at bid because it's the easiest thing to look at. If it's an auction and I spend more money, technically I'm going to rank higher. And so that's also part of the benefit in that you can be pretty much quick and real time in terms of spending more, but also partly the danger with something like Google Ads, which is to an extent pretty much pick up and play, right? You can go in, throw in your keywords, slam in a budget and some bids, and stuff will happen. And I think a lot of times it's easy to just focus on this because it's the most simple thing to look at. And it is a big part of it, for sure. But I want to really talk about the other two elements as well, because those will allow you to potentially still get really quality traffic and have a good position in the search engine results without necessarily having to pay as much as if you didn't focus on those areas. Because we have to remember Google's focus really is on user experience and relevancy. And that kind of brings me to this part here, quality score. You probably have heard of this term before. It's basically a scale of 1 to 10 that Google gives each of your keywords to understand how relevant they feel it is, and that then impacts everything else. And there are these sub-strands of quality score. You have your click-through rate, your relevance, and the user experience or landing page experience. So let's start with the first one. For Google to give you a quality score figure, they look at your click-through rate for that particular keyword. They will look at the click-through rate based on what that is looking like for keywords that are in a similar vertical to you historically. So they look at obviously all the data that they have, and then off the back of that ascertain whether the click-through rate that you're currently seeing is on par or below or above par relevant to what they expect it to be. Again, loose kind of metric, but ultimately what this is saying is, you need to give extra focus to how you actually set up your campaigns and the structure of your account, and also the way you populate your ad copy, really was the word I was going for there. And that part of ad copy overlays to the relevance element. And relevance is, say your keyword that you are wanting to show an ad for is iPhone X. Well, your ad copy needs to mention iPhone X as often as possible, while still, of course, being natural and letting you, do traditional ad copy in terms of, theme and tone of voice. You don't want to be stuffing the word in there, but you need to get it in there a few times so that the user sees, oh, well, this ad's about iPhone X. I searched for iPhone X. So Google sees relevancy when it comes to that. Now, off the back of that, you also need to consider how relevant you are based on the competition in the SERP. So the best way I can give an example of that is when you look at certain brands that may bid on other people's brands. So I'm going to take American brands here. I'm going to take Verizon and T-Mobile, okay? Say I'm Verizon and I want to show an ad whenever someone searches for the word Verizon. That's pretty much as relevant as you can get, because my ad is going to talk about Verizon. I am the brand, like that's there in my domain name. And the keyword the person searched for is Verizon. So Google is going to see me as hyper relevant. Now, T-Mobile are still in the telecommunications cell phone industry, so there's relevancy. It's not like they're, a locksmith. But T-Mobile, if they want to show an ad for their services when someone searches for Verizon, which you can do, they could show an ad there, but Google would look at that and say, okay, well, the user searches for Verizon, you are T-Mobile, yeah, you're relevant to a degree because you do the same products, but you're a different brand, so you're less relevant than Verizon is. I know it's a super simple example, but it helps you understand that relevancy is, yes, about what you put in your copy, but also how relevant is your product or service to the keyword you want to show for. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, the final part is around user experience, and that inherently could be read as landing page experience. So this isn't maybe directly in your control if all you're doing is setting up the paid ads to send traffic to the site, but it's always important to understand where you're sending the traffic. So you need to make sure you send the people to the most relevant page possible. And in the example of, again, we'll go back to the iPhone X, the best page possible is the product page for iPhone X, not the page for iPhones, which has all the model types in it, or the page above for Apple that has all Apple products on it. You need to think of the page being the place where the person could potentially buy or sign up right then and there. Give them as few clicks as possible to get to the conversion you want. And then from an experience perspective, again, if they have searched for something specific, try and have a page that reflects that clearly on your site. And for broader keywords, you go to the broader category pages, but don't just dump everybody on a generic homepage is the point here. Other things on user experience that may be a little out of your control but you need to consider are things like site speed. So how quick does your page load, especially on mobile? And also on mobile, think about how it's rendering out and is it responsive. So that all plays into basically how you then can get your quality score number from 1 to 10. And these are things that you can affect and change. Now, the thing is, most people don't give them consideration because you may not know about it, or they're not as intuitive as the bid where you can just up the bid or down the bid. This stuff takes a little bit more time. It's maybe not as tangible in the short run, but you can get a clear indication in the Google Ads interface of how these are performing. You can get a breakdown by keyword that says, okay, your quality score is 6 out of 10. Your CTR and user experience are considered above average, but your relevancy is average. They give you very baseline kind of wordings there, so it's just to use as a guide. But with that example, if your relevance is average, that gives you a clue. The clue is Google doesn't think your ad copy is as relevant as it could be. That could just be because your keyword maybe isn't as relevant to you as a brand. But if it's more copy, you could go and look at, well, do I need to test different copy? Do I need to try and get the word that I'm bidding on in the copy a little bit more? Is there something else I can do? Or if it's a landing page, am I going to the best page possible? All of these things are more nuanced elements that you can move and play with and optimize, and it's a different lever to push and pull to simply just upping or downing bids. And finally, to round this off, we'll look at that ad extensions part. And in this, look, Google want people to have extensions on their activity. Ideally, they want you to have at least 3, if not more. I would say that you need to consider what your business goals are, and in some cases having, every extension under the sun applied isn't ideal, nor is it necessarily relevant. If you don't have a phone number for someone to call you, you can't put a call extension. If you only do business online, you are not going to put a location extension on there either. But there are a few baseline ones that can apply, irrespective of whether you do business online or offline or both, or whether you're SaaS or product or service or e-com. There are a few baseline ones. First one is site links. Okay, so that's basically sort of extra sub-product headings that you can put under your main copy. So if you were bidding on the keyword, let's say it's iPhone is the keyword, and the copy in the main part is about just iPhones. Your site links can be sub-products of maybe different handsets. So one for iPhone X, one for the 8, whatever it might be. The other type that you can use of extension this is call-out extensions. And these are just nice little ways to give a chance for you to shout about your USPs. Could be, free delivery or 24/7 customer service. Basically, your selling points that you want to put in really simple, almost bullet point fashion across the ad. And the third one that you can put on there is what's known as structured snippets. And this basically allows you to pick there's different headings. They range from things like service types, courses, brands, I think is another one. Again, based on your business model and vertical, you pick the one that's most suitable for you. In the case of, say it's an e-com company that sells perfumes and aftershaves. You might select a snippet of brands, and then you could list some of the brands of perfumes and aftershaves that you sell, as an example. Or if you're a service company, say you work in legal, you could put the service type and the type of legal services that you actually provide as sort of a quick top-line view of what your product and offerings are. And so those 3 are simple core ones that I think everybody should have applied to their campaigns to satiate that ad extensions requirement. And then look at the other ones and apply them if they're relevant to your business. And again, the key here is try and have the extensions be relevant to your campaigns and keywords in those campaigns. So, certain campaigns may require different USPs to other ones based on the kind of product that you're actually promoting with the keywords that live within them. So again, you always need to come back to that sort of macro point of view of, if I'm not looking at just bidding and budget, I'm also then needing to consider relevancy and user experience. Okay, what is it that you are doing with your activity that can best serve your potential customers? It's the same with you, whatever you do in whatever aspect of your business. You're just applying that mindset to, well, how does that apply when they're searching for me on Google? So hopefully that helps to make sense and almost crystallize a bit more of a pillared approach to how to look at you're optimizing, okay? Obviously, it's all interlinked. It's not like in isolation, but it lets you really hone in on these three factors of quality score, bid, and extensions, and not just kind of go a little blind into the wind with it all. So take this, go away, think of how it applies to your ads activity, and just use it as a focal reference point moving forward, so that you have that foundational knowledge that you can then use whenever you're doing anything, whether it's creating something from start or optimizing moving forward. Thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this content, if you thought it was useful, please do comment, share, like, pass it on to anybody that you think would benefit from it. Obviously that means a lot to me if you would do that. And I will be back again in the not too distant future with another video for you guys to check out. Thanks. Take it easy.